The following program, Know the Cause, is paid for by Mediatrician Incorporated.
Oh, folks, you're going to love today's show. We really have a lot of coverage. You know, if any other show gave you this much information, it would only have to air once a year. We're on Monday through Friday. Dental amalgams, do they leak through the years? Can that be toxic to you? Dr. Carey O'Reilly joins us toward the end of the show. He is a dentist out in the San Diego area. Doctors Mark and Angela Stingler join us. They're NMDs, naturopathic medical doctors in Encinitas, California. They're talking about what I think a lot of us have, and I don't think doctors recognize this yet, and that is gut leakage. Sometimes some medicines can open up the cells in the gut, and a little bit of leakage occurs, and I think that leads to food allergies. Seal up the gut, and you won't have that problem so often, I believe, but let's get their take. And then right before that, homeopathic remedies. What are they? Dr. Frank King, I met him. We mutually spoke at a couple of meetings in the past, became friends. He's going to join us today and talk about homeopathy. I'm opening today's show with fungus and diabetes. Remember, certain fungi are endocrine disruptors. Could that induce diabetes? Watch.
For the past 45 years, I have dedicated my life and my whole career to finding the root cause of disease. And I now know with certainty that we must play a role in our own health care. I'm a self-care advocate, and you know what? Every time you change your diet for the better, exercise, or swallow a nutritional supplement, so are you. Now welcome to Know the Cause.
This is a little bit technical. I read some of these journals and it gets technical, then I try and reduce it to what you might understand better. Some of you, I've realized, are scientists. Is there a link between diabetes mellitus and fungus or yeast? Well, we give fungus to mice. We inoculate them and they all get diabetes symptoms. So yeah, there is. Is there one in we humans? Aspergillus makes a poison called aflatoxin B1. It causes human cancer. But in addition to that, aflatoxin B1 makes diabetes symptoms also. To investigate the effects, they studied mice of long-term exposure to aflatoxin B1 on type 1 diabetes mellitus. Some authors analyzed the mice livers with the type 1 diabetes after aflatoxin B1 treatment and highlighted that in the type 1 diabetes aflatoxin poison group, the levels of the major urinary protein 1 were lower. Hence, considering that this MUPI, this urinary protein, is used as a marker of higher insulin sensitivity, it is clear that aflatoxin B1, a fungal metabolite, exposure induces the increased levels of blood glucose in mice. In English, please. Exposure to Aspergillus mold and the poison it makes, called aflatoxin B1, a very common mold, leads to symptoms of diabetes. Big, powerful sentences, almost to confuse we, the public. I mean, reading that, it probably took me 30 years before I understood things like that. Aspergillus mold makes aflatoxin B1. Recently, aflatoxin M1 has emerged as a major health concern owing to its exposure to humans via consumption of milk. You're kidding. Dairy products, food, commodities, and this is a strong association with risk factors that may lead to the onset of type 2 diabetes mellitus and other various metabolic disorders. In English, please. Exposure to dietary aspergillus, like milk and the milk products, a very common mold, is strongly linked to type 2 diabetes. Look, I don't want to make you paranoid, but we have other milk options now. I use almond milk at home or other milks, okay? Mold exposure in diabetes is likely the most common mold many of us ever exposed to is penicillium. The mold is penicillium, and the poison it makes is called penicillin. It has to be poisonous because it kills bad bacteria. But might penicillin be linked to diabetes? Diabetes. Penicillin may cause false positive results on urine sugar tests for diabetes. Does your doctor know this? People with diabetes should check with their physicians to see if they need to change their diet or the dose of their diabetic medicines. Why doesn't our doctor tell us that? I always get this wrong, but who's paying for an office visit? Are we being paid by the doctor to tell them, oh, by the way, you know, I just had 6 rounds of antibiotics and that will skew my urine test, sugar test? Shouldn't they know that? So mold or diabetes medications being taken before laboratory urine sugar tests can cause false positive sugar results, leading to misdiagnosis of diabetes. Antibiotics make it look like diabetes, but it may not be. Finally, this, folks, the Journal of Family Medicine and Primary Care a few years ago had this headline: Overdiagnosis and Overtreatment, How to Deal with Too Much Medicine. And I quote, studies suggest that over half of people with mild hypertension are treated with drugs even though this approach has not been proved to decrease their illness or death rate. Following the same logic, they say, diabetes, prediabetes, gestational diabetes, as well as osteoporosis can be overdiagnosed. I believe we are hyper-diagnosing people. Just my take, folks, just my take. But check with your doctor if you're not comfortable with your diagnosis. Please talk to another doctor.
You know, the missing link, as we've found in healthcare, is empowering the people. We all have the inner ability to heal, and what's been missing is engaging each human being in their health.
Hey folks, a special surprise for you right now. You know, those who watch my live social media show know that I get the question kind of often, Doug, what about homeopathy? Do you believe in it? First of all, I'm thinking, do I believe in it? I mean, it's recognized by our Food and Drug Administration. Oh, not so much here in America, but I'll let Dr. King go into that. Dr. Frank King joins me right now. He and I have shared a couple of cups of coffee when we're at meetings together. Really like the guy because I'm hungry for more information on homeopathy. So his name flashes. When I hear the word homeopathy, Dr. Frank King flashes. First of all, Asheville, you're from Asheville. Were you guys hammered with storms here a short time ago?
The most shocking storm we've ever seen. Asheville's always been known as a safe zone because we're surrounded by mountains 360. And hurricanes come through up into the U.S. heartland, and we get a light rain and a breeze.
Yeah.
So this was a surprise and a shock, and the whole city's still shut down, you know, a month after hurricane. So it's been quite devastating for our city, and it'll take a long time to get back to where we were.
The Carolinas are strong. You know, I mean, you guys will recuperate. I know that, filled with good people. Tell me about, Ruth and I used to go into CVS. You know, I buy cards, gift cards, and so forth at CVS. Your products, homeopathic products, were sitting on the shelf. They're not there anymore. And knowing your heart, knowing your story, tell people why they're not there anymore.
Yes, Doug, homeopathy is a very personal and individualized healing art that treats the whole person. And it really takes education. We've always been committed to educating. That's what the word doctor means, is to teach. And so, you know, the missing link, as we've found in healthcare, is empowering the people. We all have the inner ability to heal. And what's been missing is engaging each human being in their health, engaging them actively, you know, to treat the whole person, which is what homeopathy does, and also to integrate natural healing techniques that you can use at home. That's what we found helped so many of our patients overcome so-called incurable diseases or even terminal diseases. And so with that high percentage of success, the key was integrating natural healthcare products, homeopathy, and natural healing techniques that people can implement personally on themselves, with their families, friends. And that is what we call the healing revolution, and the title of my first book.
Yes, I remember. Just such a great book. You know the cause, thanks really to God TV. Know the Cause is a global show, 500 million households throughout Europe. And I'm hearing in other countries, homeopathy is just, it's almost like allopathic medicine here. You go to the doctor, you're going to look at homeopathy. Why not in the U.S.? And do you have any statistics on how it's used here in the U.S.?
Yes. It's sadly only 2% of the population is using homeopathy, where the rest of the world, it's over 55% of the population use homeopathy. Maybe it's one of the reasons why we are the sickest nation significantly in the world today. And homeopathy is one of those keys that is essential for us to really become empowered and to overcome the plethora of diseases that's plaguing our society today.
And it's, folks, there's so much to say about this. Number one, before a pharmacy would look at homeopathy, they'd really have to go with the right company, right? Because this is FDA inspected and so forth. And Frank's company, King Bio, was the company they looked at and put them in all over the place. I remember Walmart and so forth. But what Frank contends is we never get to talk, this isn't an antibiotic that 2 days later your fever breaks. This is something you must use consistently, not to help the sore throat or the fever, but the whole body, okay? Frank's website for more information, I'm so sorry we don't have more time with you, Frank. Frank's website is kingbio, KINGBIO.com. God bless you, Frank. Continued success. Great to see you again.
I received that.
Thank you. Ravonda, in 1986, I got an invitation from a very prominent dermatologist in Dallas. I lived in LA with my wife and kids, to come to his clinic, big hospital here in Dallas. He was on a board of psoriatic doctors, so psoriasis is what he saw the majority of. And when I sat down with him, it was amazing, folks, because the answer to psoriasis in a doctor's office is a new drug, a PUVA box where you stand with the skin exposed to UV light, a cortisone shot, and it still is. It was in 1986 and it still is. I relocated my family and came out here, but not until I proved to him that fungus played a role in many cases of psoriasis. How does a doctor know? How can your doctor know? What the doctors used to do is prescribe diflucan, it's an anti-yeast bloodstream medication, and nystatin, it's an anti-yeast gut medication, because I saw so many people who had psoriasis, but they had a concomitant problem. Bloating, belching, gas, constipation, diarrhea, so they had two problems. Their skin was bad, but their bowels weren't working. I knew 40 or 50 years ago that most of our illnesses are linked to the gut. Get this working, and sometimes this cleans up. How do you do that? With a changed diet, I asked the doctors if I could put them on the Kaufman diet, and with nystatin. Then what if this yeast that was impeding the gut, inducing, you're not detoxifying, your bowels don't work. Many of these patients can't sweat. And so what if they were just retaining these poisons underneath the layers of skin? What we found in 2 weeks was nothing short of miraculous. They would follow the Kaufman diet, take the diflucan and nystatin, and come back in 14 days to see the doctor. It was dramatic. Many of these people were teared up. Why, doctor, haven't we done this? I've been coming to you for 8 years. I remember this one man saying, and look, it's got to be 50, 60% better. Doug, do you think food can induce this? I think fungus induces it, and corn and wheat and peanuts, even here in America, sometimes have fungus in them. And I think antifungal lifestyles can help reduce it. They were excited. They were really excited in 2 weeks. 2 months, they had control of this, like sitting on a horse and pulling the reins. They were controlling it. 2 years, they realized what they owned was a volume switch. They could turn the volume way up on their psoriasis. Just eating desserts, just drinking alcohol, just going back on antibiotics. Conversely, they could turn it way down. And that's what most people told me some years later. I control my own psoriasis. I think we did then. I know many of us do now. Friends, long ago, gosh, 20, 30 years ago, I met a dentist who was a biological dentist. And as we were sharing a cup of tea, he was sharing things with me. Well, Doug, root canals and x-rays and amalgam fillings. Well, I finally met one out in San Diego several years ago. We were there lecturing. Dr. Carey O'Reilly, some of you have seen him on television with me in the past. By popular demand, he's back with us. Dr. O'Reilly, thank you for being here.
You're welcome, Doug. Thanks for having me.
What does a biological, you use the words integrative and holistic, I love that. What do you do differently than your standard dentist? For example, sometimes root canals, I imagine, are essential. Sometimes x-rays are essential, et cetera. How do you approach it differently?
Yeah, the approach, the philosophy is what you do in the mouth also affects your body. The two are not disconnected. And so specifically in my practice, we don't use metal. In terms of metal fillings, they call them the old amalgam silver fillings. And we don't use crowns with metal in them anymore. We find there's research that backs this up, that the metal in your mouth and your teeth will leak and be absorbed by your body. And these are metals. Some of them you don't want in high levels in your body because they're toxic. So over time, these materials can break down, they'll wear through chewing, and they release these metals into your mouth and you swallow them. So,
and same with amalgam in the fillings?
Amalgam, yes.
Yeah.
Amalgam has, for instance, one of the materials in amalgams is mercury, and that's not good for our bodies. So we have a special protocol that we use when we take out old dentistry, especially with amalgams, that we isolate it and we protect the mouth and the patient from being exposed to the metals when they're coming out of the teeth.
And that's that dam?
Yeah, it's called a rubber dam. It's like a raincoat that fits over your teeth so I can work on them. And the material is not exposed in your mouth. It's contained and we can suction it off.
I
safely.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And then as far as x-rays, people think, my dentist, I think, shot way too many x-rays, but you have a different approach, something called digital x-ray. Can you explain that to this audience?
Yeah, digital is similar, except it's not film. It's done with sensors, and the images are digitally transposed onto your hard drive, on your computer, so they don't degrade. The radiation is lower on these units, on this technology, so the patient exposed to less radiation when the dental x-rays are taken.
See, and
so it's considered safer.
What he's done, folks, is he's put these resources all together. This is one of the reasons I love this guy. It's yours free. My Holistic, with a W, with a H. My Holistic Dentist, I almost use holistic. myholisticdentist, singular.com/resources, right? What he's talking about right now with regard to dentistry, with regard to amalgam, walk me down the root canal aisle, and I know that's online also. You've done work in that area.
Yeah, it's a big difference, again, between what I do, for instance, and most dentists. Infections. Root canal is basically an infected tooth where bacteria builds up inside the tooth and then drains out of your tooth into the bone around the tooth until you can see it on an x-ray. So what you need to do is remove these infections. I mean, infection is bad. Any infection is bad, a root canal included. So root canals are still the standard of care. What we have done is incorporate different technologies to improve the results in terms of removal of these infections and bacteria. Lasers, for instance, certain lasers and ozone included in that, because ozone is a powerful oxidant. These bacteria, these mean anaerobic bacteria that can leak in your body from root canals, they cannot resist oxygen. They can't resist the ozone. So it's ends up being a natural antibiotic during a root canal treatment, for instance.
This is what Dr. O'Reilly does different than most doctors. He's a different kind of a doctor. You can gain his knowledge by going to myholisticdentist.com/resources, plural, resources, all the way from San Diego, California. Dr. Carey O'Reilly, great to be back with you, doctor. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
You bet.
Thank you, Doug.
Hi, I'm Dr. Angela Stengler, here with Dr. Mark Stengler. Time for our 1-minute clinical insights segment. Today we are going to be discussing leaky gut. Is it real?
You know, Angela, they finally have acknowledged in medicine that leaky gut syndrome is real. And this is a condition where you have an unhealthy small intestine. Now remember, the absorption of your nutrients mainly takes place in the small intestine. So if you have a leaky gut where you're absorbing molecules that you shouldn't be into the bloodstream, it results in an inflammatory response by the body, not just in the gut itself for digestive problems, but that can affect every other organ system in the body.
Yeah, we really want to heal that gut. Some of the main ways we do that, obviously, we start with diet, decrease the sugar, alcohol, caffeine. We all know that. But as far as nutrients and herbs, we focus on deglycerized licorice, glutamine, aloe, slippery elm, marshmallow, and don't forget to add turmeric to your meals, because that's also very helpful with your digestive process.
So, how did you like us so far? Kind of interesting, isn't it? Amalgam, root canals that can leak, silver amalgam that might leach into our tissues through time. It doesn't happen a week or two after. It may take a while, and it doesn't always happen. Some people get by without it. But thank you, Dr. O'Reilly, for coming in. Thank you, Drs. Mark and Angela Stengler, for teaching us a minute, about gut leakage. I think it's a huge problem. I don't think most gastroenterologists know this, although twice my IQ, this isn't something you learn in medical training. Thank you, Dr. King, an amazing man. I remember having a cup of joe with him in Florida, and we got deep into homeopathy. What is homeopathy? How does it work? And folks, I think when you take an allergy shot, you're taking a homeopathic, very, very dilute remedy for a big human. I mean, it might be that simple. Finally, diabetes. We kind of go on this show where no other health show goes. Could the root cause of blood sugar fluctuation be mold and mildew? Could you be living in it? Could antibiotics have induced it? I hope you enjoyed today's show. God bless you. We'll see you again. Please tell a friend to know the cause. Bye-bye.
The preceding program, Know the Cause, was paid for by Mediatrition Incorporated.